I recently returned from leading a group of ancient history enthusiasts around Rome. I've visited quite a few times over the years, but I've never seen the city so crowded. 2023 was the busiest tourist year in Rome's history, and 2024 is already even busier. Next year's Jubilee, expected to draw millions of pilgrims, will make the crowding exponentially worse. Nobody I've talked to thinks that the situation will get better anytime soon. Unless you visit in the middle of winter, in other words, Rome is always going to be crowded. Fortunately, even at the height of high season, it's not hard to avoid the crowds. There are only two places where you're guaranteed to encounter long lines: the Colosseum and the Vatican. At the Colosseum, you can avoid the worst traffic jams by booking an entry slot in the mid or late afternoon, or by joining a guided tour that brings you down to the Hypogeum or up into the higher tiers. The Vatican is harder. The line to enter St. Peter's Basilica used to be only about a half hour long. Now it's often 2 hours or more, unless you arrive very early or very late. The Vatican museums are even worse. It used to be possible to avoid the crowds by reserving a ticket for the late afternoon, especially on weekdays. But now it seems to be bad throughout the day, and the whole museum feels like a cattle chute funneling people toward the Sistine Chapel. The vast majority of Rome's attractions do not experience this kind of crowding. Even the spectacular Capitoline museums are usually free of tour groups later in the day. The Palazzo Massimo Museum, near Termini Station, is my favorite museum in the city. The masterpieces in the collection, like the famous seated boxer, are as impressive as anything in the Vatican, but are far better organized and completely free of crowds. Rome has other museums that would be major attractions anywhere else in the world, but are almost completely neglected. Perhaps the most interesting of these is the Centrale Monte Martini, where a wonderful collection of Roman sculpture and mosaics is displayed against the massive machinery of a former power plant. Regarding ruins, try to visit the Roman Forum either first thing in the morning or late in the afternoon, when tour groups are thin on the ground. The ruins on the Palatine, included in the Forum ticket, are almost never busy. Nor are the Baths of Caracalla, especially later in the day. To escape the crowds entirely, check out the excellent Museum of the Imperial Fora, which is built into Trajan's markets. Another option is the recently opened Largo di Torre Argentina, where you can see the place of Caesar's assassination, several Republican-era temples, and a lot of cats. You might also visit the virtually intact Roman houses beneath the Basilica of Santi Giovanni e Paolo on the Caelian Hill, a short distance from the Colosseum. Last but not least, the Church of Santa Maria degli Angeli, near Termini Station and the Palazzo Massimo Museum, occupies the spectacular central hall of the Baths of Diocletian. St. Peter's Basilica, and to a lesser extent, San Clemente, are the only really crowded churches that most tourists encounter. The spectacular Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore is almost never crowded outside Mass times. Nor is St. John Lateran. St. Paul outside the walls, the last of the 4 great papal basilicas, is usually empty, despite being nearly as grandiose as St. Peter's. There are literally hundreds of other impressive churches in Rome, often quite close to major attractions. Within a few blocks of the Pantheon, for example, are Santa Maria sopra Minerva, Sant'Agnese, the Gesù, and Sant'Agostino, all worthy of a visit. To really escape the crowds, leave the city center behind. Spend an afternoon walking or cycling along the Via Appia Antica, still lined with the ruined villas and tombs of the Roman elite. Or take a day trip out to Ostia Antica, the ancient port of Rome, to explore an ancient city nearly as well preserved as Pompeii, but virtually free of visitors. The possibilities for day trips are endless. The Villa of Hadrian at Tivoli, the Etruscan necropoles at Cerveteri in Tarquinia, the ruins and villas of the Alban Hills. If you're interested in visiting Rome, check out the linked page, which describes the guided tours that I lead every year to Rome and other parts of the ancient world. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your time in Rome.